Thanks for being with us on this Friday afternoon. We made it to the end of the week, and welcome to all of our viewers on YouTube and Twitch. Thank you to you for being with us as well. We are taking your questions live this hour, so submit them on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube chat, Facebook, and we'll try to get to all of them. Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, of course. The trial was in recess this week, but it still doesn't mean we don't have things to talk about. There was also some news that came out. We'll get to that a little bit later. But of course, we want to recap what this is all about. Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. Johnny Depp, the actor, suing his ex-wife for defamation over an op-ed she wrote in December of 2018 rather, in the Washington Post. Depp says that op-ed was not true. He says she defamed him and cost him acting roles and damaged his reputation. Amber Heard, meanwhile, is counter-suing Depp for $100 million, claiming that he and his attorney, Adam Waldman, launched a smear campaign against her and cost her acting roles. So it's been a trial that people have been watching around the world. They've been watching it here on Law and Crime and on our YouTube channel, and we get questions from people around the world about this case. So it's drawn a lot of interest, and it's also a very serious case. This isn't just about defamation. It's about domestic violence and the claims of domestic violence by each of these people against each other. So we want to show you a little bit of the testimony of Amber Heard, where she talks about Johnny Depp being abusive. He, of course, denies that allegation, says that she was the aggressor and the abuser and that he was the victim in all of this. Amber Heard claims that Depp was abusive before and during their marriage. So we'll look at a clip from Amber Heard and then talk about it on the other side.
These fights would try to stand up for myself by December 2014. I was pushing back. I'd push him off of me. I tried to hit his hands away. I tried to always get back up, which sometimes, not sometimes, almost always made it worse. Always seemed to provoke him. But I tried. And worse, I would yell at him. I'd scream at him. I'd call him ugly names. So ashamed of the names we'd call each other. It was awful. It was awful. We both got into that pattern. It was so, I felt so angry that this was happening to me, and it just felt so unfair, It felt like nothing I could do. Felt like nothing I could do would change the sobriety patterns. Felt like nothing I could do would stand up for him, and nothing I did made him stop hitting me.
Okay, so that's Amber Heard saying that Johnny Depp was abusive before and during their marriage. She said that he would hit her even before they tied the knot. So, but she said she went ahead and married him anyway. She thought she could fix him, like she could fix her father. And she also said that she considered him the love of her life, her soulmate. So we are taking your questions, and joining us this hour to do so is Catherine Lizardo. She is a plaintiff's attorney out of Texas, and Karen Felicia Nance is still with us, a criminal defense attorney. So thanks to both of you ladies for being with us today. As always, we always appreciate your time and your expertise. We are going to start with a question from Twitch. This is Decito. Decito says that Amber Heard says that she was backslapped by Johnny Depp when he was wearing rings. You've seen those rings that he wears in court. They're pretty big. She asks, how did that not leave a mark, and how did she get out of that or suffer that without medical assistance? She says, sorry for my bad English. I am from Italy. So don't apologize, Decito. We appreciate you joining us from Italy. We got your point. So Karen, I'll start with you on that. How do we not have any evidence since she was documenting these other injuries?
Right. That's a great question from Decito, and it makes perfect sense. We're sitting here watching him in court with all his rings, and that's part of his character. That's part of what he does, is wear his rings. And so you would want her, Amber, to explain why this happened. How could it have happened if he wears his rings? She didn't testify that when he comes home, he takes his rings off. That would be something more plausible that as an explanation as to why we wouldn't see any bruises or something. But she's indicating, no, he would hit me with these rings on his finger. So I think it makes her a lot less credible of a witness. And I think that the jury's going to see right through that.
Interesting. So, DeCito, I hope that answers your question. We now wanted to go to Bree from YouTube. I'll toss this one to you, Catherine. Do you think, and this is one of our favorite topics that we've been talking about all week, Catherine, so this is great. Do you think that they'll bring Kate Moss to testify on the stand? Again, this is from Bree on YouTube, and I think Bree asked us this last week too, or at least asked us about Kate Moss. So, Catherine, do you think we're going to see Bree, or do you think we're going to see Kate Moss testify in rebuttal?
Hi, Bree. Yes, I remember your question and I remember your name too. Thanks for the question again. There is a high probability that Kate Moss might come back as a rebuttal witness. We discussed last week that Amber Heard's testimony mentioning Kate Moss and the stairs might have opened the door for them to bring Kate Moss as a rebuttal witness to talk about that and clarify that. That's because Kate Moss was supposedly, there was a rumor, and at the UK trial, Amber Heard testified that there was a rumor, and also that two people told her that Johnny Depp pushed Kate Moss off the stairs, and that's what she was thinking when she testified that at the time that Johnny Depp first hit her. So let's see if she comes as a rebuttal witness. We'll know soon enough next week, hopefully.
Okay, and I'm going to toss this question to you really quickly, Karen Felicia Nance. This is from Facebook, actually, and it's from Jerry J. Wallace. And Jerry is asking, do attorneys have body language experts watching and giving them advice? I've watched a lot of experts analyzing Heard, and 9 out of 10 say she is deceptive. And I think this is a good question, Karen, because I've actually watched some of these body language experts on YouTube. Some of them I'm not so sure are really body language experts. But there is this one panel in particular that I always enjoy watching when covering cases. They seem like they really know their stuff. So do you think that each side has body language experts or even consultants watching this to advise them on how to behave, what their demeanor looks like, and even stuff like clothing?
That's a great question from Jerry, and I absolutely think that at this level, this high-level case, where we have both parties that have a lot of money available to them, why wouldn't they have these experts? And I think that it's especially true, like you're saying, Angenette, that we would have that opportunity. If I were either Amber or Johnny Depp, I would make sure that I would have them on the case to figure out how to proceed and how to actually analyze this body language and how to actually address the questions on the cross in direct examination. And obviously they've had a whole week to have such those types of experts as well as other experts look at how Amber's presented herself. And that gives the Johnny Depp's attorneys a great opportunity to cross-examine her and look at how she presented on direct and how they can refute her testimony on their cross-examination.
All right, let's look at another clip. Amber Heard is testifying in this clip about an injury on her lip after a fight with Johnny Depp, and she's describing all of this for the jury. So let's listen and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Okay, Amber, go ahead and explain what it is.
I think this is maybe that night or the next night after Johnny left me on the bed.
Let's go to 517. Does this accurately portray the scene depicted?
Yes, it does.
Move to admit defendants 517, Your Honor.
No objection.
517 in evidence.
Amber, please describe for the jury what this portrays.
That's my face after this incident.
And what's portrayed on your lip?
Well, he busted my lip when he punched me. It's bleeding in this picture. It kept reopening. You know, it's a mouth. The lips move.
All right, so that's Amber Heard talking about an injury to her lip. I think we should point out, and Karen Felicia Nance, I got some information, and people had been sending me some information that Amber Heard had a habit of picking her lips and that she has dry lips and things like that. And we may have even heard some testimony about that. I can't recall immediately. But apparently there are photos and screen grabs and pictures of her picking her lip in court. So she's saying, though, that Johnny Depp caused this. Karen, what do you think, looking at that photograph? What could be the cause of that?
Well, if that's all we had in isolation, then I would say possibly. But we have to look at the totality of her testimony and what we've heard from other witnesses as well. No one that went to the penthouse, and I'm not even saying exclusively the bodyguards, but I'm saying the nurses, the Dr. Kipper that we heard testify, no one has testified that they saw any of these bruises or injuries. And she always indicated that he would slap her and do much more damage than what would be visible just from this injury. So I would expect with him backhanding her with rings that we would see more damage to her face and not just to her lips. So I think it does go to her credibility. And based on the severity of the beatings that she's described, we would see a lot more injuries.
Catherine, we have a question now from Kunal Reshamwala. He is writing in from YouTube. Kunal, thanks for joining us today. This is the question from Kunal on YouTube again. Is it true that Amber only needs to convince one juror to win the entire case? Catherine, I'll shoot that one to you.
Yes, in terms of Johnny Depp's suit against Amber Heard, we have to remember that Amber Heard also filed a counter-suit against Johnny Depp for defamation. Both of them has this same burden of proof, which is clear and preponderance evidence, which is about 80% and above, if you think about it percentage-wise, and they have to prove that to all of the jurors. Here in Virginia, what's interesting is they have only 7 jurors. In other states, it's usually 12 jurors. And another interesting thing about Virginia is even though it's civil litigation, it's civil trial, all 7 jurors has to be unanimous in reaching their judgment or their verdict against Johnny Depp or against Amber Heard's claim. So yes, even if just one juror doesn't agree with either one of them, they would basically lose their claim against that person. So if Johnny Depp cannot convince one juror, his claim against Amber Heard will be lost. And if Amber Heard can convince at least one juror, her claim against Johnny Depp will also lose.
And we should point out, I mean, they could both lose. It could be a wash. Mm-hmm. And, the standard here is clear and convincing evidence. That's 80% or greater, I guess, is how we would describe that. Karen, here's a question from Amber Lynch from Facebook. Amber asks, what I want to know is if Johnny already testified, why would they need to do it again? And this is some news that we broke this week to you on Twitter. We told you that Amber Heard, when the trial resumes on Monday and she gets back up there on the stand, she's going to continue her testimony. Then she's going to call her sister. Then she's going to call actress Ellen Barkin. And after that, she plans to call Johnny Depp as a witness in her case. So why would they need to do that again, Karen?
Well, I believe that the point from Amber's attorney's perspective, and I appreciate, Amber, your question, is that they want to what's called impeach or find some holes in Johnny's statements that he testified to earlier, or basically say, we've put forward our witnesses, Amber, Whitney, and Ellen, and you can't refute that these things happen the way they've described them to happen. So basically, it put him on the spot and make him either corroborate his statement, the statements that he made on direct examination, or basically have him fumble up and make him seem like an improbable witness. I believe he did an awesome job on direct and even on cross-examination in the presentation of his own case. So I think that the goal of Amber's attorneys is to kind of get him ruffled and maybe show that there's this aggressive personality underneath. I don't think that they'll be very successful. These are both polished actors, but maybe that would be the point. I don't think he can be ruffled, honestly, based on what we've seen on the cross-examination so far.
Yeah, he seems to keep it pretty cool, even with the comebacks and some of the snarky comebacks and the jabs. So he doesn't seem like he's going to get upset or fly into a rage. All right, so we've been covering this trial, obviously, not only here on YouTube and on the Law and Crime Trial Network, of course, on our website, lawandcrime.com, but we're also producing a podcast for you each day. It's called Law and Crime Sidebar. We enjoy producing it, and we really think a lot of you enjoy it based on some of the comments we've received and some of the feedback. So go to Apple, Spotify, Google, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, download it and give us a listen and let us know what you think. We'll have new episodes posting today and tomorrow. So it's been really fun doing this, and we love doing it for you. Stay with us. Keep those questions coming on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook. We're going to answer your questions as long as you keep sending them in. Stay with us while we take this break on the network. All of you YouTube people, we have to do this for the TV network, so we'll be back in a couple of minutes. You are watching For the Record on Law and Crime. Welcome back to For the Record here on Law and Crime, and welcome to our viewers on Twitch and YouTube. Thanks for being with us this afternoon as we answer your questions about the case of Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. The case was in recess this week, But that doesn't mean that there's not plenty to talk about. There's always plenty to talk about regarding this case. We're taking your questions, so submit them on our YouTube chat, Facebook, Twitter, on Twitch, and we'll answer them. We'll try to get to all of them. You guys are sending in really good questions. So this question, Catherine, I'm going to send this one to you. It comes from Danny Ty on YouTube. Danny wants to know, how is Whitney going to be testifying? How is she allowed to testify despite not completing her deposition? That's a really, really good question, because depositions, they take those so that each side, it's like a fact-finding mission, it's discovery, so they can know what these witnesses are going to testify to.
Exactly, Angenette. And in civil trial, unlike in criminal trial, where there's no deposition, you don't know what the witness will testify to in court. In civil trials, the deposition is taken before the trial. So like I said, we know what they're going to testify to. And her deposition was abruptly ended because my understanding is she walked away from the deposition. Correct me if I'm wrong, Angenette, on that one, but that was what I recall. But here's the thing, even though she did not complete her deposition, they can still call her as a witness at trial on the stand, and they can ask her right there and then the questions they want to ask her. So she doesn't have to have taken a deposition. That's the general rule that happens. The deposition is just there so that if I was the one cross-examining her, I have an idea what she will testify to. But now it will be tricky for Johnny Depp's team because they won't know what her answer will be to their cross-examination. So that's the interesting part.
Yeah, and I kind of wonder, too, they probably already have a general idea of what she's going to say, I'm assuming. And you were right, she didn't finish the deposition, Catherine, and I think people were saying that she had been ill or something, so she didn't finish it.
Okay.
But it sounds like, I mean, maybe they could have finished it another time, but they must not have pressed for it to do that. Karen, I'm going to ask you this question from L, just the letter L on YouTube. Can Amber's past relationships come into this trial? So we know that she had dated this woman, or they were partners, maybe domestic partners or something like that, or even her wife, Tasia Von Rhee. And there was this incident at the Seattle airport where Amber Heard had been charged with domestic violence or something to that effect. It was later dropped, and Tasia Von Rhee put out a statement saying it was a misunderstanding. You've also got James Franco, you've got Elon Musk, and whomever else she has dated. So will the jury be able to hear about that? Can it come in?
Oh, that's a great question, Al. And so what it comes down to is what Amber testifies to on the stand. So if you think of it as being a house in a closed area, and only the conversation that happens in that house can be discussed. Now, if someone opens the door, which is what we refer to as letting information in. So if during her testimony, either on direct or cross, Amber opens the door and makes reference to some other incident with some other relationship, whether it's James Franco or Elon Musk or her previous partner. Once she allows that to come in, then other evidence can come in as to those relationships. And I think you'll remember that there was a point in the case where Amber mentions not James Franco, but mentions Kate Moss, and you saw the reaction of Johnny Depp's attorney just giving a fist pump, being excited that she mentioned that. So that was an example of opening the door. So that's why we had the discussion of whether or not Kate Moss would be called as a witness. So it'll be interesting to see if Johnny's attorneys are able to trip her up to mention other incidents or other relationships, and then that information can come in as well.
It will be interesting to see. All right, we are going to watch another clip. This is Johnny Depp actually describing the violence in the relationship that he says Amber Heard perpetrated upon him. You know, we have to remind you that he claims he didn't do any of this. He says he's never struck her or any other woman, but obviously she's claiming otherwise, and he says she was actually the perpetrator here. She was the abuser abusing him. So let's listen to what he had to say, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
And when you say violence, what are you referring to specifically?
Miss Heard, in her frustration and in her rage and her anger, she would strike out. She would. It could begin with a slap. It could begin with a shove. It could begin with, throwing a TV remote at my head. It could be throwing a glass of wine in my face. But all in all, it was just it was a constant. There was a built-in list of as I said, my personal experiences, which I gave to Miss Heard, those things were, those facts were used against me as weapons, especially when it came to my kids. So yeah, I did. There was no need for it. There was no need for it. Too many lines were crossed. You couldn't see the lines anymore.
Turning his children, he says, and any other information Amber Heard, he had given Amber Heard, she turned it all into weapons. And we heard Amber Heard bring up his children quite a few times, especially Johnny Depp's daughter, Lily Rose, during her testimony. I wondered, Karen Felicia Nance, what did you make of that? We've discussed this before. You, Catherine, and I, we are all moms. And the constant mention of Lily Rose during the testimony, Karen, I'm wondering what you made of that. You hear Johnny Depp saying everything became a weapon.
I was really, it's an empathetic feeling that I have toward him. I think that it was totally out of line that she would use the information that he shared with her. First, we're talking about someone that's in a intimate relationship with you, a marriage, a legal relationship, and is taping you without your knowledge. First of all, that's just unbelievably cruel to me. And in addition to that, I will take what's closest and dearest to your heart, which is your children, and I will say that you're a deadbeat dad, that you're washed up, that in all these negative things. And sometimes people, Amber's focusing on the physical, allegedly the physical abuse that she suffered from Johnny. And the jury has to decide if that's true or not. But in a lot of cases, when you abuse somebody mentally and emotionally by attacking them through their children, seems to me the worst thing from my perspective that you can do. And Johnny's being very careful at not bringing his children into this. And I think it's a low blow and just a dagger that she constantly makes reference to the great, quote, great relationship that she had with his two kids, when we know Lily Rose didn't even want to go to their wedding. So I don't think that that's believable. And I think it's going to hurt her in the end by constantly bringing his children into this when he's very careful not to do that.
Yeah, as a parent, you always want to protect your children, protect them from anything. And hearing that brought up repeatedly and watching his reaction to it, you can tell he doesn't, nothing he says, he doesn't believe a word she's saying, or he's saying what she's saying is not true, because he said Lily Rose did not like Amber Heard. All right, Catherine, this question comes from Wolverine, a.k.a. James, on Twitch. Could Johnny Depp's team call Amber's exes, or her ex, since her team is calling Ellen Barkin to testify? And that's a really interesting question. That kind of got me thinking, too, about opening the door even farther, despite the Kate Moss comment last week. I mean, Ellen Barkin dated Johnny Depp for a short time in 1998 while they were filming Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and Johnny Depp said this was like a casual sexual relationship. It was a rebound thing after Winona Ryder. So, Catherine, does this open the door even farther for bringing in exes of Amber's?
Thanks so much for your question, Wolverine. I love your name. And I've been thinking about the same thing too, because how far can you go, right? In terms of your relationship. Now, in trial, you only bring in evidence that are relevant and would be helpful. You don't want to waste everyone's time by going through your years and years and decades of relationship. So by bringing in Kate Moss, it opened some door, and we're saying that, you know, it might have opened Amber Heard's prior relationship and prior arrest. Now, in terms of bringing in also Johnny Depp's relationship, that might happen as well. But here's the thing, the Judge Ascarati, has to approve first if that is going to be allowed, because in civil trials, prior bad acts cannot be introduced as evidence, because you don't want to show that someone has a propensity of doing the same thing just because they did it one time. It's so prejudicial. So Judge Ascarati has to approve that. And we've seen Judge Ascarati being by the book and very strict with her ruling, especially with sustaining hearsay objections. So we'll see if she's going to approve any of that. But that's basically the rule. How far can you go with your relationship as a prior bad act?
It really begs the question, and I think it opens the door. I mean, if you're going to bring in my ex from 1998, let me bring in yours. All right, let's take a quick break. We have to do this for the network. We have to pay the bills. We have to run some ads, and we want you on YouTube to stay with us and on Twitch. Keep your questions coming. You are watching For the Record on Law and Crime. Welcome back to For the Record, you're on Law and Crime. I'm Angenette Levy, and welcome and thanks for being here to all of our viewers on YouTube and Twitch. We are taking your questions, and we are taking those submitted via YouTube chat, Twitter, Facebook, and on Twitch. So thanks to everybody for sending them in. They're great questions. Let's go to Kill It Fan Forever from YouTube. Karen, I'll throw this question to you. Since Amber brought up Lily Rose, if you're just joining us or if you're new to the case, is Johnny Depp's daughter, and she was a minor during this whole thing, during this marriage. Since she brought up Lily Rose in the trial, does that open the door for Vanessa Paradis, Lily Rose's mother, to be brought in as a witness on rebuttal?
That's a good question. The issue is what specific information did Amber testify as to on her direct or her cross-examination. She didn't, to my recollection, Amber didn't bring up specific statements that Lily Rose made. She did indicate that Lily Rose, I believe there's an incident that Amber felt that Lily Rose was afraid or concerned about her father, Johnny Depp's behavior. I don't think that Johnny Depp's team would find that something that they would want Lily Rose to have to come in and defend or negate, right? So I don't think from his team's perspective that he wants to keep both his children, Jack and Lily Rose, out of the picture. So I don't even think that the mother, Vanessa, would want to bring the children in. So I don't think that there's anything that really would benefit Johnny Depp's team in bringing Lily Rose in at this point, since he doesn't want either one of his children or even Vanessa involved. I'm sure that he's talked at length to Vanessa about the possibility of bringing the children in, even though they're now adults. And I don't think that he wants them brought into the case. He just wants to clear his name without bringing them into the case.
No doubt. Protecting the kids is always a parent's first priority. All right, I'm going to combine these next two questions because they're somewhat similar, and I'm going to add to it a little bit as well. So this combined question comes from Nana Noodles from Facebook, and from Twitch, Sylvia_U. When Amber Heard started her testimony, Catherine, last week, she said that she wrote the op-ed, but then the ACLU actually said they basically wrote the op-ed with her input. So can the ACLU now be sued, or even the Washington Post, if it's found that this whole thing was false?
I love the names of our questions. Thanks for that question. Now, the question as to who can be sued. Technically, anyone can be sued. It's very easy to sue. Now, whether or not you're going to prevail, that's the whole different story. And Washington Post and ACLU could have been sued by Johnny Depp for the defamation with that information that they're the ones who wrote part of the, or the drafts of the op-ed, and even the final, right? They had to approve that as well. But the thing is, Johnny Depp didn't do that strategically because it's so much harder to file a lawsuit and win against the media, such as Washington Post, because of the protection of First Amendment speech. And also the same goes with ACLU, that it will be harder for him to prevail against them. That's why he focused on Amber Heard, because really the Amber Heard's name was there as the author, even though ACLU's general counsel testified that they wrote the draft for her. She's the one who approved it. The op-ed was under her name as the author, and the experiences of sexual violence and domestic abuse is now being presented as a first-hand account from her. So it just made sense strategically to just sue her because it's a stronger claim.
All right. Well, now let's look at a clip. Let's look at the clip from Dr. Shannon Curry. She was the forensic psychologist who testified for Johnny Depp's legal team, and she met with Amber Heard for a total of 12 hours last December and made an assessment of her. She said that she diagnosed Amber Heard with borderline and histrionic personality disorders. She said that she does not believe that Amber Heard suffers from PTSD. She said, in fact, she believed she was feigning symptoms of it. That is in contrast to the opinion of the defense psychologist, Amber Heard's psychologist that her team hired. So let's listen to a little bit of what Shannon Curry, Dr. Shannon Curry, had to say about how borderline personality disorder can affect personal relationships.
You indicated Miss Pennington was a former friend of,
Yes.
of Miss Heard. Is there a relationship between borderline personality disorder and intimate relationships?
Yes, so the instability definitely translates to their relationships. You'll see relationships start very intensely. People will, somebody with borderline personality disorder perceives the relationship as extremely close. This pattern of idealizing and devaluing is definitely at play. They do this with their lovers and also with their friends. And so this might be the perfect person, their perfect soulmate friend, perfect soulmate partner, and their engagement in the relationship is very alluring, very charming to the other person. And so initially everything seems great. But what occurs is that reality sets in. People are not perfect, even when we have a lot in common with them. Whereas most of us can accept somebody as a whole, somebody who has a little bit of flaws, and still think this is my great friend who always constantly running late for dinner. The person with borderline personality disorder, things are in these extremes, this black and white, we call it splitting. And so that person goes from being idealized, the perfect person, to dumpster. They are totally devalued. They are the worst friend. They don't care anything about me. I have better people around. And then there will be a repair, because the person with this disorder does feel remorseful after they have these reactions, angry, tell their friend off. But over time, it wears away at these relationships. And so what you'll usually see is many transitions in their friendships over the years, people who have sort of fallen by the wayside, who were really very close-knit at one time, and then, but there's not a lot of consistency in the long term. You'll also see that with their intimate relationships, many relationships, but none that are particularly long-term.
So that was Dr. Shannon Curry talking about somebody with borderline personality disorder, which she says Amber Heard has, and she is saying that that can really impact personal relationships. People go from being, this big, great friend of theirs to dumpster. So that was an interesting, I think we're always getting this really great psychology lesson through this trial. Catherine, I'm going to ask you this question. I think this is a really good question. This comes from, I think it's Michelle Tellis from Facebook. If I'm mispronouncing that, I apologize, but there's an A in the middle. Michelle Tellis from Facebook asks, can they pull metadata? We've kind of heard about that a little bit throughout this trial. Metadata from the photos, because metadata tells when it's taken, if it's been altered, things like that. Michelle says these are possible Botox and filler bruises. How about that, Catherine? What are your thoughts on both of those questions, or both of those issues, the metadata and whether or not these are Botox and filler bruises?
It definitely raises that question as to whether or not these photos are authentic. Because a lot of us are looking at the photos and thinking that could have been something else, like the black eye also could be, is that just she slept late and just has an eye bug, or like what is going on? And so that's why what we do before trial is have someone extract those data from the phone, from your computer, laptop, and look at metadata. That is part of the evidence that we have to gather. It's my understanding, actually, that Johnny Depp's team filed a motion against to the court against Amber Heard's photos, yes, because it's my understanding that they had difficulty extracting that information, that metadata, and they were claiming that there was some tampering of the metadata. Now, I'm not exactly sure what was the final ruling on that. I was trying to research that, but I haven't found that yet. But that is very interesting whenever someone is claiming that the metadata has been tampered with. So now they're not sure how to properly authenticate the pictures there. But those pictures have been admitted into evidence. So now it's the jury who has to decide whether or not those are believable and credible.
Yeah, and I think, just to add to that about the metadata, Johnny Depp, you might have heard during his testimony, he said, I don't have any metadata. Like, I don't have metadata for that. And it's because he hired an expert. And according to these documents that I was reading through the court, they've asked for sanctions against her attorneys because she was supposed to, apparently, Amber Heard was supposed to turn over the phone to their expert, or some type of different software was supposed to be used to download it. So apparently this didn't happen properly, and so the metadata for some of these images is not there. You heard him refer to that. They were not happy about that, and I would think that would be a big issue. This whole issue about how the phone wasn't downloaded properly with the proper software. All right, we are still taking your questions on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube chat, Twitter. Submit them and we'll answer them. We're taking this quick break on the network, so everybody on YouTube and Twitch, stay with us. We have to do this for a commercial break. We'll be right back. You're watching For the Record on Law and Crime. Welcome back to For the Record here on Law and Crime. I'm Angenette Levy, and thanks for being with us not only here on the network, on television, but also on YouTube and Twitch. We appreciate you joining us on this Friday afternoon. Testimony resumes on Monday, May 16th. just in a few days in the trial of Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. Testimony will resume with Amber Heard on the stand under direct examination, and I think we still have quite a bit of direct examination to go. So who knows if they'll even start the cross on Monday. We'll get there, though, and Amber Heard plans to call Johnny Depp, which was some big news that we found out this week. All right, so let's listen to a clip. Obviously, this case is not only about defamation, of course, but at its root, it's about domestic violence. And Johnny Depp has said that he was the abused person in this relationship and that Amber Heard was the aggressor. Amber Heard, meanwhile, says Johnny Depp was the abuser and that he beat her up and sexually assaulted her throughout their relationship. He denies that. And we actually have a lot of audio recordings. If you're just kind of coming into the case, if you've missed this, we have audio recordings of this couple talking to one another. Johnny Depp and Amber Heard recorded each other. Johnny Depp said he did it to show Amber Heard what she had said to him, because sometimes she would deny that she had said what he said, she said. A lot of he said, she said here. So let's listen to one of these arguments that was played, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
I said to Travis, I said to you, hey, tell Travis what just happened.
You told me to do it. You told me to. You said, go do that.
I said, no, tell him what just happened.
And I lied.
And that you punched me in the thing. And
you figured it out.
And you said, no, fuck it. No, I didn't. What the are you talking about? And I watched you lie, and then
I didn't punch you, by the way. I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
You know, you've been in a lot of fights. You've been around a long time. I know. Yeah.
No, when you have a close face.
You didn't get punched. You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this, but I did not punch you. I did not deck you. I was hitting you. I don't know what the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
How are your toes?
What am I supposed to do? Do this? I'm not sitting here bitching about it, am I? You are. That's the difference between me and you. You're a baby.
Because you started.
You are such a baby. Grow the up,
because you
Johnny.
Start physical fights.
I did start a physical fight.
Yeah, you did, so I had
to get
out of there.
Yes, you did. So you did the right thing, the big thing. You know what? You are admirable.
Amber Heard admitting to starting physical fights and saying that sarcastically that Johnny Depp is admirable for walking away. Okay, this next question, I'm going to send this one to you, Catherine Lizardo. Eliane Pawin, I hope I pronounced that properly, from YouTube is asking, has Amber's makeup artist testified or will she be called to testify? I think so. Beauty regimen, huge part of this case, Catherine. We have heard so much about the makeup, the tint, the concealer, the types of powders, the palette, the color correcting palette. So what's your opinion on that?
Yes, well, to answer your question, her makeup artist has not yet testified. For Amber Heard's case, we've only seen two witnesses, who are her forensic psychologist, Dr. Hughes, and Amber Heard. So we'll still see additional witnesses, of course, in her case in chief. And we'll see if her makeup artist will be called to testify. I'm not familiar with her name, but the exhibit list is public viewing on the court's website, so I will definitely check that out later on to find out if any of those witnesses listed for Amber Heard is one of her makeup artists. But if I was Amber Heard's team, I would want her there so that she or he can testify that as her makeup artist, I always try to go ahead and minimize whatever physical bruises she has or any damage to her face that has happened from altercation or physical fight with Johnny Depp. That's what I would want to elicit from her makeup artist. So it would be beneficial for Amber Heard to put her makeup artist on the stand for sure.
And we actually heard the name Melanie Iglesias brought up during some of the testimony. She was a makeup artist, apparently a friend of Amber Heard's, and she had done put makeup on not only Amber Heard but Johnny Depp as well. We only have about a minute left, Karen, Felicia, Nance. I'm going to send this question to you really quickly. It comes from Haley Claire on Facebook. If Amber wins, how likely is it that her counterclaim will be dismissed due to the evidence that she has abused Johnny?
That's a great question. And I think that what the jury can decide and has a power to decide whether they're going to award any financial money to either party. And so even though Amber may win in principle, which is the findings of her case, her countersuit, they can just come back with the zero for each party saying, yes, okay, you've established the elements of your case, and the jury has come back with a finding as to Johnny Depp's case as well as Amber Heard's case, but they can just do a symbolic award of $0 or $1 or a penny, and that I think sends a greater message that they don't believe it might be true, but we're not going to award you any money because of how the case was presented and maybe the fact that she wasn't that credible of a witness.
Right. Well, Karen, sadly, we have to bid you adieu. Thanks for being with us on this Friday. We always love when you're with us. Karen is going to be leaving us, but we will be right back, Catherine and I, and we'll have another guest. Keep watching. You're watching Law and Crime.